Are you a cannabis company looking for an unrestricted, uncensored way to advertise your brand? With PodConx, you can promote your brand on over 40 independent cannabis podcasts for as little as $1,000 per campaign. Just set your budget, provide your script, and PodConx will produce your commercial and have it playing in less than 3 days. Go to podconx/advertise.com to get started today.
Well, today we've got an amazing development. There was another one of those PubMed.gov studies that hit the open market, if you will, and allowed all the peer-reviewed studies to show what we talked about on here many times. CBD, 160 milligrams, reduces neuropathy. I'm fired up. I love it when new studies come out because we can just put it right in those doctors' faces. Read this.
Welcome to the Miracle Plant Podcast, the show that inspires, promotes, and gives you a daily dose of inspiration from the people who have used cannabis to change their lives in extraordinary ways. Here's your host, Justin Benton.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Miracle Plant Podcast, where we discuss this miracle plant with so many names and how it's helping people in so many extraordinary ways. Well, today we've got an amazing development. There was another one of those PubMed.gov studies that hit the open market, if you will, and allowed all the peer-reviewed studies to show what we talked about on here many times, which is that cannabidiol, or as people call it on the street, CBD, because it's easier to say a fun acronym. Cannabidiol reduces neuropathy. So there's a study out here that was just published. I saw it through Chris Meets Cancer. We're looking to get on his show. He's going to get on ours. We're going to go all the way down the rabbit hole with CBD and cancer and anti-tumor shrinkage and all those kinds of things. Not the Seinfeld shrinkage with the Costanza, but actually shrinking tumors. And so, but today we're talking about how it was proven on PubMed that when you take 160 milligrams of CBD, they were giving it to patients with chemo on these two chemo drugs here, and I'll read it a little bit more specifically later, that it was reducing peripheral neuropathy. And that, again, folks, because there's so many people that think, unfortunately, the way that our healthcare system is currently set up right now is that you've got to get something approved through the FDA. And we all know how much we appreciate the honesty and transparency coming from all of our government agencies right now, right? Right, everybody? And so anyways, you jump through all their billion-dollar hoops, you get your big rubber stamp of approval, and you can sell your drugs through doctors. Yay! Right? That's the American way. Well, here's the thing. We have known about this particular cannabidiol, CBD. We call it CBD-A because it's raw and organic, just like juicing a freshly squeezed orange. Neuropathy is pain. It's nerve damage. It's like someone stabbing you in the foot with a knife, right? If you've ever ridden a motorcycle in the rain, imagine that all over your body. And so when you have numbness, right? Or you can't feel your fingers. A lot of people get it from diabetic, symptoms. That when you take this oil or you rub on a topical, this pain, this numbing, this nerve damage dissipates. Because then again, raw cannabis, raw hemp, raw CBDA actually reduces inflammation and is a neuroregenerative. Fancy word, it fixes nerves. If your nerves are broken, whether it's your brain or your foot, this plant helps regenerate them, right? Just like when you pull off a lizard's tail, the tail regenerates. Well, that's what cannabis does when you keep it raw and whole plant for our bodies, for our nerves. So very excited. Again, look, I don't need this information. Right? I don't need to be convinced. Many of you on here who've heard the podcast over the years don't need to be convinced. Many of you have just said, that's why we work with chiropractors to have these new products out for the topicals, which are so simple. It's like, oh my God, your foot hurts, right? You can't sleep, you can't stand, you have throbbing pain, especially at night, and you rub some topical on, and oh my gosh, the pain went away. Like, that's magic. And like, no, actually it is science, and it is holistic healing. But again, we've known this for a long time, but when you have to have a study out there for the doctors and the people that, oh, well, it needs to be double-blind placebo and all this, Look, at the end of the day, the cat is out of the bag, the toothpaste is out of the tube. If you're in pain, try some cannabis. Now, try some raw whole plant cannabis, just like aloe vera. Crack it in half, like plant the leaf, crack the leaf in half. When that nice, cool, substance comes out, you rub it on the sunburn, right? That's how it works with cannabis in pain, neuropathy, inflammation. You get that fresh cannabis plant. If you can grow one in your backyard, we'll teach you. Or just, if you got a green thumb, plant it. Just pick that plant and rub it on the pain. And if you don't have a green thumb and you don't want to grow in the backyard, then go get one of our products and try it, because that's all our products are. They're just cold pressed hemp, just like freshly cracked opened aloe vera. So again, we're excited because there's another study out there proving what we already know. And I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of people out there trying to poke holes in it because it's a threat to their trillion-dollar industry in big pharma. In fact, I saw another report that just came out yesterday. Lots of good stuff happening. That the big pharma has lost billions of dollars since cannabis has been been opened up for medical uses over the past few years. Shocker! That's why we're having all this pushback. That's why since 2018, hemp has been completely, clearly, federally legal, and yet the FDA, 4.5 years later, still hasn't given us a clear path to put it on the shelves. Still chills the industry. So all the big boys out there, all the trillion-dollar, industry can make sure that they've got everything set to make sure they can dominate and make sure that they're the ones that monopolize this incredible miracle plant. Instead of letting people, take natural supplements themselves, they want to patent it and sell you their version of Epidiolex, which is isolated synthetic CBD, for, as you guessed it, $32,500 a year. Versus if you bought a bottle from us, it cost you about $60. Which one do you think makes trillions of dollars? And why do you think that there's such a fight that we can't run Facebook ads? We can't even put posts up. We get shadow banned. And we're here doing a podcast to the platform where we can actually talk truth and get the word out there. So welcome everybody to the Miracle Plant Podcast. I'm fired up. I love it when new studies come out because we can just put it right in those doctors' faces, right in those people that need those bean counters out there that need that information, and be like, read this. CBD 160 milligrams reduces neuropathy. Ta-da! So welcome back, everybody. Welcome Janet Benton-Gaylord and Dan Helmenston. We got another study proving what we already know. Yay!
Well, let me jump in there. I'm always great. I've actually been spending the last week working on CBD and CBDA research on neuropathy. So this actually came at a timely moment. And one study that I have been reviewing equally related to neuropathy is actually with a topical approach. And this is a 2020 study using random controlled trials, or RCT, so the highest level research on people in the real world. And in this case, with the topical, they used a 250 milligram CBD in 3 ounces of cream or whatever. And which is kind of interesting. Even with that, though, they had patients with placebo patients and their patients, and all the people that were taking the CBD topical reported improvement with their neuropathy, including like the tingling and the shooting pains and the numbness. And they also had itchy and sharp pain, all kinds of different things. But they all showed statistically significant improvement in their pain. And then they even took the placebo group, and then after that was done, and gave them the same access to the topical. And the placebo group, who had not shown improvement without it, then showed improvement with it the second half of the trial. So it's a well-done trial with CBD. And again, too, all my research and everything I've done ever since we've started the business is that the CBDA, which is what the plant makes, the really raw, the fresh squeezed orange juice, we call it, versus the tang of many CBD products. The CBDA, as we've mentioned many times, is 10 to 100 up to 1,000. And I just read another article by Dr. Raphael Mechoulam, where he summarizes research around the world that he's involved in for 60 years now. In his last one, he actually upped the strength of the improvement with CBDA up to 10,000 times stronger. And that varies a lot with different conditions. One of the biggest ones they notice is like nausea and side effects from chemo. But again, too, we still have that the CBDA is just way more powerful, unbelievably more powerful. And just on a very basic level, coming a little primer here on neuropathy. Justin had mentioned how one of the benefits of CBDA is how it repairs nerves that have been damaged. It helps protect nerves from systemic problems like MS and Parkinson's, protects them from damage. And then the biggest one ever is neuroregeneration. It literally regenerates nerves. And that was the basis of how the CBDA worked for Justin's son, from the severe autism to top of the world, world-class athlete and world-class academic and social guy now. And so the same with neuropathy. Neuropathy is nerve damage, and it's often caused by inflammation. And anytime you have pain, it's a combination of nerve damage and inflammation. And since the CBDA is a very strong anti-inflammatory, and it also regenerates nerves, it's just the absolute best hope we have for relieving pain of any kind, and especially neuropathy. And neuropathy is on the increase. You get it, like you say, from diabetes, you get it from injuries, we get it from surgeries, is where a lot of it's coming. And the research I was looking at, a lot of it is from damage during surgery, and people doing all the spinal surgeries, the knee surgeries, and hip surgeries, and everything, where you can actually cut through nerves and cause that damage. So just another real basic level too, besides Dr. Meshulam, another one of our leading lights in the CBDA research is Dr. Ethan Russo, a very well-known international neurologist. And he talks about CBDA. And then it's always hard to decide how far to get into everything because it can get complex. But basically, most people have figured out by now our bodies make cannabinoids called endocannabinoids. And we have an endocannabinoid system of receptors that's actually bigger than our nervous system. And one of the most important cannabinoids our bodies make is called 2-AG. And then Dr. Russo says that all neurological conditions, from autism to neuropathy to everything in between, is caused by too low level of the 2-AG, the cannabinoid our body makes. And then here comes CBDA. It's considered an analog, or basically the same as this 2-AG. So when you take it, it literally, our body's very familiar with it. It goes to every receptor in our endocannabinoid system, plus every receptor in our body. And it then literally then on the most basic level even increases that level of the 2-AG functioning, besides going in and doing the repair on the actual nerves that have been damaged and lowering the inflammation, which is also part of that neuropathy. And so again, too, there's a lot more research coming through now on CBD. I'm still finding it harder to find the CBDA research. And just think about, too, people did nothing but study THC for decades. And then about 30 years ago, they finally started focusing on CBD. And most of the research I review still has CBD with THC in different combinations. And so it's only been the last 6 to 7 years that we focused on the raw CBDA. And so again, too, but it's just very clear, even looking at anything CBD can do, think about, CBDA will do it so much better since it is 10 to 100 up to 1,000, even higher strength or effectiveness than CBD. Every research study we can find to show that we have effectiveness with CBD, again, too, it's another strike against the pharmaceutical industry. But again, too, it's another strike for people to show us we have something that is safe, does not have the side effects. And that was another outcome of the study. There were no side effects. And so we have something that actually can offer people. And obviously the real CBDA in a tincture or a topical is going to be 10,000 times cheaper than a pharmaceutical version of anything. So again, too, very, very excited for just to come up with a study. And then the studies I came across just this week studying neuropathy. And so I'm very, very excited to share this news.
Absolutely. And again, the proof's in the pudding. Everyone's different, right? All of our personality profiles and the way we perceive the world. Like some people are big picture thinkers, and some people are very detail oriented. Some people are very emotional, and some people are very logical. So we're trying to make sure that we cover all those bases for every single set of ears out there that are listening. That look, obviously I'm the emotional big picture guy. So for those that need that, look, at the end of the day, go to freemiracleplant.com, check that out, freemiracleplant.com, and get yourself some free Miracle Plant in the form of a little mini roll-on that you can roll on wherever the pain is, and all you have to do is pick up postage, and we will mail it to you, and the proof is in the pudding. We are working with Dr. Fab Mancini, doctors and chiropractors and holistic healers all over the world. I'm doing presentations and masterminds and conventions everywhere I can go. I'm flying to Miami on Wednesday and Virginia on Thursday, flying to Orlando after that, and we're going to continue to preach and teach what this miracle plant can do. And at the end of the day, for those logical people, you just got it from my mom, Janet Benton-Gaylor, the head of research for 101cbd.org. But for those of you that need to actually feel that, you know, you're an internal person, right? You're like, well, I'll just see. You know, no one's going to tell me what to do. Well, guess what, internal person? All you have to do is decide that you go over to freemiracleplant.com and get yourself a little mini roll-on. And it'll be in the mail in a couple days, and you find out where that pain is. If it's your neck, it's your back, it's your knees, it's your hands, it's your neuropathy, it's your feet. Rub that sucker on for 2 days, 2 or 3 times a day, and then come back on the Miracle Plant podcast or send us an email and let us know, holy smokes, that stuff actually worked. And then we'll bore you to details with why it worked. But at the end of the day, the proof is in the pudding. So we're so excited. Again, there's another study that's out there that's showing what we already know. Again, this is all just a ruse, right? This is a ruse. This is a game so the trillionaires can continue to make trillions. It's already been evidenced, proven, that they're losing billions and billions of dollars a year to the cannabis industry because people are using cannabis instead of buying their drugs, right? So now you are empowered. You now have this information. We are 5, 10, 15 years ahead of the game, right? Because right now there's patents being sent down to the patent clerk so they can, you know, manipulate and own and monopolize as much of this as they possibly can, the big pharma industry, because they want to crank this baby out in white form pills, keep the system the way it is, right? I just went through surgery. I had a little sports hernia that I had to get cleaned up. And boy, I tell you what, man, they get you in there. And I was like, hey, man, I'll just take some local anesthesia, no big deal. Nope, they put the mask on, they shove it in your face. I'm like, what the hell was that? I wake up, I go, what did you guys give me? You're like, oh, let me look at your chart. They don't even tell you. One of the things was fentanyl. They gave me fentanyl. Knocked me out with fentanyl, went against my wishes, knocked me out. And then when I wake up, they give me the drug that kills Tom Petty because fentanyl, part of this opioid crisis that we're in, actually controls the part of the brain that regulates your breathing. Look, it's a system. They wanted me to go on anesthesia because it puts another 10 grand in their pocket. Folks, don't be a fool anymore. Take the red pill. This is a money-hungry game. Look, there's plenty of great doctors that got in that for the right industry, got in there for the right reasons, but the industry is corrupt. It's corrupt with people that all they care about is making that almighty dollar. It ain't the healthcare system, it's the sick care system, because when you're healthy, they can't make any money off you. I'm not a cynical person. I'm a very optimistic, positive person. But the healthcare system makes me cynical because it is not set up to heal you. That's why we align with chiropractors, holistic healers that understand, well, instead of giving you a pill for the system, hey, Bob, why don't you write down what you ate this week? Why don't you get a food journal? Why don't we start with what you're putting in your mouth? How much water are you drinking, dude? How many times are you going for a walk? Let's start with the basics, the fundamental, right? There's that line of that cartoon out there that has a line of pills and surgery, and there's 100 people in line at a window. And the window right next to it says, lifestyle change. Nobody's in that line. Well, look, we're here at the Miracle Plant to help you get into the right line, because we all know what pills and side effects and the current healthcare system, the way it's set up, what their main motivation is. Their main motivation is to keep you on their drugs. I didn't go and get their hydrocodone because I wasn't going to take some, white pill for the pain. And there was some pretty good pain, I'm not going to lie. I took plenty of our 3,200 milligram CBD and some of the topical, and I was fine. But they call me every single day, multiple times a day, to get down to CVS and go get my drugs. Yeah. Like, I remember there was drug dealers that you had to call them. The drug dealers are calling you.
Yeah, I really agree with you. Yeah, and part of the research I've been finding too is that one big reason for this push to find natural solutions for pain and neuropathy and a whole host of things is they're realizing that the opioids, for all their high profits, are just not great with all their side effects and addiction qualities. And so there are several research articles where doctors are openly stating we're trying to find something besides the opioids. And so that is a great uh, motivation for them. At least some of them are aware of that. And that's why they were finding success with CBD. Then the other thing that made me happy with all the current research is also, as you know, just within CBD, there's all those levels. You know, there is the pharmaceutical model, the Epidiolex, and then there's the CBD isolate, and then the full spectrum and broad spectrum, which are not really legally defined, so it's kind of hard to guess what they are, but at least there's something in there besides the isolate. And then I always call ours the whole plant, because when you do cold press it and extract it that way, you end up with, you know, many other things, flavonoids and lipids and terpenes and all the good things. But the research is starting to show that when you have those other things in there, that you do end up with a better result. So it's been a slow plodding process from what we discovered just by actually using the CBDA with Justin's son and seeing the miraculous, you know, neural regeneration, calmness, all those anxiety, all those different sleep, all those effects. So we knew by working in the field to see that it worked. And so it's good to see that the more general researchers that are showing up on PubMed are realizing that it's better not to use an isolate. The whole, more closer to whole plant works better, not only than the isolate, but also with the different pharmaceutical formulations. And then again, too, realizing that they've got to find better solutions for pain to get away from the opioid type things. And then also realizing they don't really have good pharmaceutical solutions for, like you say, side effects of chemotherapy or solving neuropathy and or just a whole anxiety, sleep. There's still open areas without solutions. And so that's why we call it the miracle plant, this one plant, because our bodies already make it and are sitting there waiting for it. And it's actually described as evolutionary connection because we had hemp in our lives for millennia. And so that's the only plant that we actually literally have cells and receptors just for it. So when you have the solution, every little bit, like today, we have a few more studies showing that the CBD helps with pain, both in topical form and sublingual form. And so again, too, that's what we're out here doing, getting the message out. There are options out there. Take some time to research it. If it works for you, pass it on.
Dan, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I wanted to ask Janet about using topicals and, say, tinctures together. Is there a compounding effect of using them together versus using one at a time?
Yeah, they work good. That's in the synergy. It's all about synergy, which is why when you have the entourage effect, they call it in this field, the synergy of more things working together. So yes, some people start out like with a topical first. They feel more comfortable with the topical. And then if that doesn't work, then you would add in the sublingual oil. And they work very well together, especially for pain and inflammation and like nerve issues. And then some sorts of things, like some kind of neuropathies, are serious enough that you want to start with the sublingual oil because they're more internal, like sciatica is a nerve inside the body coming from the spine. So if you have sciatic pain, then you would for sure take a sublingual that can get into the bloodstream and go in there and reduce the inflammation and repair it. But I've also worked with people, like you say, with neuropathy, with a tingling in their feet or pain in their hip or whatever, where the topical works. The topicals just don't go into the bloodstream. That's the main difference. But we have receptors in all of our cells, every single one of our cells. So when you rub it on, it's not like rubbing on like icy hot or some of those where it's just going to affect kind of the top layers. There are CBD receptors in every cell all the way down into the body. So that the topical goes in much further. And also, I learned again too, like menthol, we have menthol in our roll-ons if you've ever tried them or smelled them. And menthol also helps actually pull the CBD in deeper. So again, too, I use the topical if it's just a pain, especially like arthritis in your hands, sore elbow, sore knee, sports injury. And so you can always start there, and then you can decide that's not quite right, so toss in the sublingual oil. And then things like sleep and anxiety and those sorts of things, they pretty much have to be the sublingual oil. I haven't found a way to rub it on unless it helps your localized pain. So again, too, yeah, and in combination, we found that out really early in the combination, putting them together, both in practice and in our research.
Awesome. And yeah, I mean, and that's why, again, with the chiropractors and all the holistic healers that we work with around the world, we usually start them off with the topicals just because people are more open to it, right? I mean, rub it on if it helps. There's the proof in the pudding, like I talked about before. But again, for really complex systemic issues, the tincture held under the tongue for at least 7 minutes has been proven to get up to 70% absorption. The only other better absorption way of getting the product into your body is when you do some type of suppository, which can get from 99% absorption. And if you're dealing with some serious lower, like cancer in the abdomen or things like that, we have a lot of people that will use the oils and make their own, type of products or things like that for taking it that way. But just for, everyday simple use, the tincture under the tongue for 7 minutes is what we recommend. But using them together is always best, right? I mean, especially if you're in pain, throw the kitchen sink at it, rub some topicals on it, take some tinctures, and just start chewing on the plant like Dr. William Courtney says on when he comes on, chew on the plant and put it between the old tooth and gum like they do in baseball. And I'm so excited that we have on the panel, back on the show one more time, Connie Wellick, the brand ambassador of brand ambassadors, who has just an amazing story. She was one of the very first people that really drove it home to me, the power of this miracle plant. Because remember, I started this mission. It was a mission to heal my son. And then we, by the grace of God, were able to find this miracle raw whole plant, cannabis hemp, and give it to him. And the neuroregeneration for his brain cleared the fog and no longer carries a diagnosis. But then people like Connie Wellick found us for their own issues, their own complex health, concerns. And I'll let Connie take it away because her story has so much to do with this study we've been talking about.
Well, I am happy to be here. I want to share my story with everybody because I have been fairly healthy most of my life. And after contracting shingles, I think, wasn't it back in 2018? I know, it's been a while. But I was basically totally disabled by the neuropathy. It's called post-herpetic nerve pain. And I had it all down my left side. And it was the result of having a pretty severe case of shingles. And one of the great things that I learned is that I could mediate the pain on my skin by using some organic essential oils. But this was something I have never experienced before. I was thrown from a horse at 21 and hurt my back pretty bad. And that was terrible pain for a while. But this just kept going and going. And after over a year, I was still having these shooting pains, numbness, and tingling in my left side. I couldn't sleep, and I was just a mess. And I was taking care of my grandchildren pretty much full time after school and in the summer, and I couldn't do anything with them. It was really awful. So I was searching the web. I was talking to people. My friend Stacy she came to visit me, and she was going up to a dispensary in Ojai. And she said the only thing that helped with her back pain and spinal stenosis was a cannabis patch that she was getting up in Ojai. And I said, well, I can't do anything mind altering. I'm part of the recovery community. I can't have anything to do with drugs, especially non-prescribed drugs. And so she said, no, this is great. You can try one of my patches. And I said, well, I have a really, I'm very sensitive to drugs, even aspirin or Advil or anything like that. I only take like half to get relief. And I was taking a lot of Advil trying to get relief from the neuropathy, but it just wasn't working. So anyway, I cut off a little corner of her patch and stuck it on my leg where the most pain was. And immediately I felt the rush. I had to pull it off right away. So I said, nope, can't use this. But it did get me thinking about maybe looking at CBD because I had heard about it, but I thought it was marijuana. So of course I didn't look into it further. And then as I was searching, I found a little family store near the college that sold non-psychogenic CBD oil. And so I thought, oh, it's worth a try. I was headed for trying anything at that point. And so I went over to the CBD store. I hobbled up the steps. My husband had to help me navigate the steps up because it was on the second floor. And I met the most wonderful people, I think, the most wonderful family that I know. And that is Justin, his family, and his wonderful mom, Janet. She told me all about the CBD product, how I should use it. And, and that it wasn't going to make me high. And so I said, okay, I'll try it. So I bought a bottle of Alleviate. I think I bought 2 bottles of Alleviate because I figured I'd probably, give it a good try. And I hobbled back down the stairs and I tried it that day. I tried to go to sleep that night. It was kind of, off and on again. Second day, it was maybe took the edge off the pain, but I wasn't taking anything else, just the CBD. And so I tried it. And then that night I actually felt more relaxed when I went to sleep. Then the third day I woke up and I took my CBD in the morning and I was making my coffee and I'm standing there at the coffee pot going, hang on, I can stand without pain. It was like, and I call it resurrection juice because, I'm a Christian. And so after 3 days, life began. And so I have been using the Alleviate and the Chill ever since. That night, I actually I had gone back and gotten some Chill. And I took the Chill before I went to bed. I actually slept 6 hours that night. So third day was the charm. I have been using it ever since. I just want to say, Justin, you don't even know this, but I pressed 30 pounds on a leg weight at the gym the other day. I mean, this is a 75-year-old woman who couldn't walk 3 years ago. And now I am I'm pushing, 30-pound weights with my legs. So it is an amazing product. Then I don't think the neuropathy is gone because I do still, if I forget, I'm so used to feeling good. Sometimes I forget to take the Alleviate in the morning. And then I'll notice my legs kind of bothering me, during the day if I'm having a very busy day. And I'm thinking, dang, I didn't take my resurrection juice. So right now, and this is the other thing that's so great about this product. Most products, you have to take more to get the same form of relief. And this product, as you take it and as it begins to heal those nerves and reroute those nerves, what happens is you don't need to take as much. You can take actually less. I take a half dropper of Alleviate in the morning. Alleviate X is the product I use. And then I take a half dropper of the Chill before I go to bed. And that's it. I mean, the costs are even less for my continuing health. And I expect not only will I take this product for the rest of my life, but just for the health benefits all around. We're finding more and more health benefits from taking this amazing miracle plant. So I'm in and I love it. I would highly recommend it. I love the fact that there's a guarantee that this family is so generous and offers people this miracle plant for what they can afford. And I don't know too many companies who do that kind of thing. So it's Yes, it's a miracle plant, but yes, this family is an amazing family, and I appreciate them just as much as I do the product. So thanks for letting me share.
Well, what a story. Thank you, Connie. And and that's why I was sold the first time I heard your story that CBD helps, so much with neuropathy. And but like we were talking about today, that there's a study that came out that there's a whole different world out there, like your daughter, like we've talked about over the years,
Right.
who needs that, and that community needs that empirical evidence-based double-blind placebo whatever
Yes.
to let them know.
Right.
And it's obviously it's going to be an uphill fight, but again, I just love hearing your story. I heard more bits in this story this time that I hadn't heard before, so I'm just so happy that you were able to come on, give your testimony, and just say, look, and that's why, this whole thing got started because we were looking for a solution for our son, and
Right.
then you were looking for a solution for your pain, and then more and more people kept finding us for their health situations, whether it was fibromyalgia, arthritis, cancer. It just kept going on, and we just kept seeing the results, these miracle stories with our own eyes and ears. And that's when we started the podcast, because there was no other way, especially when the March of 2020 hit, there was no other way for us to tell these stories than just go on a podcast. And so again, we're just so happy that you were able to hop on today, share your story of how this miracle plant helped you with neuropathy. And we'd love to obviously have you back anytime, and really, really blessed and happy. And I know you send people into the store quite a bit, because when I'm in there, they're like, Connie sent us. So I really appreciate all of that as well.
Well, you're welcome. It is a privilege to represent 101 CBD.
Absolutely. Did
So
you have
good.
anything to add there? Go ahead,
Oh, just
Mom.
so good to hear from Connie. And our topic today, too, we're talking about the different and more recent research,
Yeah.
both on our topicals in terms of relating to neuropathy, peripheral neuropathy, and then even more importantly, the sublinguals with their stronger effect for and neuropathies are just seem to be like many medical issues, especially as people get older, seem to be growing and growing. There's so many different types of them out there now. So you always make my heart feel warm. So thank you again for sticking with us and sharing, especially thank you for sharing, because most of our information gets shared by word of mouth. And that's like the truest form of sharing information. So very nice to hear how well you're continuing to do.
Yeah, it's nice to be on. And I have to tell you, after I get finished with my trainer, I go to the gym with the trainer on Mondays. And after he's finished with me, I use that topical roll on because my muscles are really, really worked out when I go to the gym. So, that in itself is a miracle. My husband, Randy, takes it every day. Just besides my story, his story with cancer and the cancer coming back. And I said, you know what, I believe in this stuff so much. I wanted him to start taking it every day. And he does. He's been taking it for the last 3 years and has had no return of the cancer. So I'm excited. I would love to get him to share a story. I really would, but he's such an introvert, and I asked him several times. So maybe someday, if we write it out together, he might share it. I don't know, but again, I am where I am today because of this miracle plant and because of the generosity of your family.
Oh, but
Well, that's what more can we say to that? Well,
sounds,
thank you.
sounds like a headline for the podcast today.
Go
Well,
ahead.
I know you got to run. You're
All
in
right.
between soccer games, and I
Yep.
really appreciate you coming on and sharing. And hopefully that story, your story, touches another to have the courage to try the product for themselves and see
Yeah.
that it is just another plant, just like arugula or a kale. And this
Right.
one, just like with aloe vera for sunburn, this one just really helps with pain and inflammation and nerve damage. So again, you can head over to freemiracleplant.com to try it for yourself for free. The topical roll-on to get started with is the easiest product to start. And we can't wait to hear your story and have you on the podcast. So thanks again, Connie, for swinging by. Have
My
fun at those
pleasure.
soccer games, and I'm sure we'll see you around sunny Ventura, California.
You will.
Okay.
Thanks to you.
Yeah. Take care, everybody.
You too.
Awesome. Thanks, Connie. So anyways, well, that's all we have this week. I wanted to keep it a little brief and short so we could get really to the point. I put the study in the link here. It'll also be in the show notes for the pubmed.gov. And read for yourself. What we've been talking about, again, another study comes out and tells us what most of you already knew, and especially those of you that have had neuropathy and have used the whole plant raw cannabis/hemp, whatever you want to call it, miracle plant for yourself. All right, here we go. On the count of 3, everybody, let's say heal the world, because that is the mission at the Miracle Plant. One family at a time, one podcast at a time. Try this miracle plant for yourself and see how this miracle plant can help you. So on the count of 3, let's say heal the world. 1, 2, 3.
Heal
Heal the world! Thanks, everybody, for swinging by the Miracle Plant Podcast. We'll see you next week, Saturday, 10 a.m. on Clubhouse. Take care, everybody.
Take care.
I'm Larry Michigan. I'd like to invite you to join Jim, Marty, and me on our weekly podcast, The Deadhead Cannabis Show. Each week we explore the latest cannabis and jam band news and reminisce with other cannabis industry deadheads and jam band aficionados about the great musical acts that we've seen and heard. Check out a new episode every Monday at mjbowles.com or wherever you listen to podcasts.